In this video, I'm going to show you some of the nuances of connecting using the HANA ODBC driver. I'll show it first generically using Microsoft's ODBC Administrator, and then afterward I'll take you into the PowerBuilder IDE and show you a couple of nuances there. So I'm over on the system DSN, and I have a set of different HANA connection profiles here. I've got one that's called CloudDB, and let me just go over and configure that guy. And as you can see, I've got my elastic IP address, port number here, server port, and there's my profile name. Now when I click connect, which I've done now, notice that the credentials are not stored. So let me put them in, and I'll click OK to connect, and the connect was successful. Now when I connect again, I'm prompted again. The parameters are not stored, and if I were to save this definition with these connection parameters in it, which I'll do again right now just to show you this, and I click OK, connect was successful, and now I click OK, close the profile, then I come back in again and I click connect. The credentials are not stored in the ODBC profile. Now I've got another profile that's here, and I believe that's my eLearn HANA profile. And this one is using a user credential store entry in which I put the server and port as well as the user ID and password. Now when I click connect here, notice they are not supplied. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to supply one that is different than the one that I have in the profile. And I'll click OK. And the connect was successful. But the point is the credentials are not supplied. Here's a database profile in PowerBuilder that I configured that is built on top of the first profile I showed you. That's the one using the supplied user ID and password. And I'm not going to supply here a user ID and password in the profile. And over on the Options tab, I've specified just the default, which is SQL Driver Complete. And let's just see what happens when I go over to the Preview tab and I click Test Connection. I'm prompted for the user ID and password, which I'll supply now. I'll click OK, and the connection was successful. Great. Now, if I go over to the Connection tab now and I type in my user ID and password, and I go over to the Preview tab and I test the connection, look, the driver secondary dialog is presented and the supplied user ID and password are filled in for me, and now I can click the OK button and I can connect. Well, I don't want to see that secondary dialog, so now I'll go into the Options tab and I'll specify SQL Driver No Prompt, apply. Now I'll go over to the Preview and I'll test the connection again, and voila, that's the behavior that I wanted. So what I wanted to demonstrate to you is that even though the credentials are supplied, if you don't specify SQL Driver No Prompt, you will get the secondary dialog box. Therefore, in your PowerBuilder IDE, you will need to supply your user ID and password for your database profile if you want to avoid being prompted regularly as part of connecting to a HANA database. I will also suggest that you need to add these connection option as shown here on the preview dialog as part of your application's DB parm. This concludes this demonstration.